Clifford Benjamin Brown was born June 26, 1956, in Wilmington, Delaware. He was born into a very musically proficient family, and his father even grabbed Clifford and his three brothers to join a vocal quartet. Clifford became fascinated with his father's shiny trumpet and started playing at about the age of 10. Clifford went into high school. His father bought him his very own trumpet and provided him with private lessons. As a junior, Clifford received lessons from Robert Boise Lowry and played in a group Lowry organized. Clifford briefly attended Delaware State University as a math major, but switched to Maryland State College because it was a better musical environment. Provided him with ample opportunity to make trips to Philadelphia, where he became even more enamored with jazz music. Clifford played in a 14-piece jazz-ish Maryland State band. In June 1950, Clifford was seriously injured in a car accident after a gig. During his year in the hospital, Clifford received frequent visits from the legendary Dizzy Gillespie, who pushed him to pursue a musical career. For months after the accident, Clifford was only able to play piano because of the injuries, and the injuries caused him to frequently dislocate his shoulder for the rest of his life. After taking up music professionally, Brownie wasted no time becoming one of the most highly regarded trumpeters in all of jazz. Clifford was influenced and encouraged by Fats Navarro and shared Fats' technique and brilliance of invention. Clifford's sound was warm, consistent, across the full range, and he perfectly articulated every note. Even at fast tempos, seemingly effortless. To go along with his up-tempo prowess, he also expressed himself deeply in ballads. He performed first with Chris Powell, followed by Tad Dameron, J.J. Johnson, Lionel Hampton, Art Blakey, before forming his own band, Clifford Brown and Max Roach Quintet. Early recording for Clifford. I didn't mention Lou Donaldson. This here is my original Lou Donaldson, Clifford Brown, New Faces, New Sounds, 10-inch. I don't have very many 10 inches. I'm usually not crazy at all about the format, unless they're original 50s jazz music, jazz records and whatnot, obviously, because then that was the standard format, was the 10-inch. Now the standard format is the 12-inch, so I don't like anybody putting out 10 inches anymore. I buy them as a collectible, but I'm not really going to listen to them that often. Clifford Brown and Max Roach Quintet played wonderful hard bop, with every member contributing original compositions. When Harold Land left the band in 1955, the legendary Sonny Rollins stepped in for the remainder of the group's existence. June 1956, Brownie and Richie Powell set off for a gig in Chicago. Powell's wife, Nancy, was at the wheel so that Brownie and Richie could sleep. Before the gig, it was a dark and rainy night on the Philadelphia Turnpike, and Nancy was presumed to have lost control, which went off the road and crashed, taking the lives of all three. Clifford Brown was lost to us at the age of 25. Some work by Clifford Brown and Max Roach. Clifford Brown and Max Roach at Basin Street. It's a phenomenal record. It's original mono. I love it. Clifford's phenomenal on it, as you would expect. And for my money, the best work that Max Roach ever did was with Clifford Brown. Even though I love a lot of Max Roach's work, especially some of his impulse stuff and whatnot. The best work he did for my money was with Clifford Brown. The guys brought out the best in each other, in my opinion. The other that I have, of course, Clifford Brown All-Stars. Son de Marquis, Another phenomenal record, of course. Sorry, guys, a quiet moment. I just can't help but think. 25 years old. 25 years old, died as one of the highest regarded trumpeters in jazz. Many believe him to be the best trumpeter of all time. Another I picked up recently, studying Brown, Clifford Brown and Max Roach. Usually it has a brown cover, but I found it with a blue cover. I'm going to be honest, I still have no idea when it was pressed. I've done some research. I've tried to figure it out. If any of you guys can help me with that, that would be great, because I don't know when it was pressed, but I've never seen another like it. And this copy is immaculate. It's clean. It's gorgeous. There's no release date or release year on it, but I love it. And I always, I'd love to have one with the brown cover, but when I found this one, I found it for like $6 at a thrift store, and I wasn't about to leave it there. I had to bring it home with me. And it's pretty neat that every time somebody sees this one, they're like, oh, wait, doesn't this one have a brown cover? So it's pretty damn neat. Even when I do acquire my brown cover, I'll keep this one just because it's a pretty damn solid conversation piece. And then, my absolute favorite record containing the legendary Clifford Brown, A Night at Birdland, Volume 1 by Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers. This is an original mono press. New York label, super clean, near mint on the wax. Guys, Clifford Brown lights this session on fire. I mean, he torches it. He torches it. I've played this record 4 or 5 times back to back before because I'm just taking in every note. I'm taking in every piece of Clifford Brown's brilliance. And that's the thing is everybody else is obviously, this album also contains Lou Donaldson, Horace Silver, Curly Russell, and the great Art Blakey. Every single one of those guys is damn near rendered obsolete, and they all play their asses off on this record because Clifford Brown is just that excellent on it. And then, of course, what would Volume 1 be without Volume 2? Unfortunately, I do not have an original mono press of Volume 2. This is a 1982 French press. If any of you guys have an original mono press and wouldn't mind parting with it, holler at me. I'll make you a good offer for it. And hell, I might even throw this in on the trade so that you can still have the music. It's a great record. It's a great press. But again, this entire session, Birdland, Clifford Brown just knocks it out of the freaking park. Clifford was clean living and didn't do any drugs or drink. Sonny Rollins, a recovering heroin addict, said of Clifford, Clifford was a profound influence on my personal life. He showed me that it was possible to live a good, clean life and still be a good jazz musician. So a lot of the artists basically played under the notion that heroin or alcohol or relaxed them and made them better jazz musicians. Which obviously, of course, was probably their own excuse, their own self-enabling excuse to partake. Jazz musicians were not rock stars. They were not filthy rich. They did not have limousines. They were not playing to sold-out stadiums. They were playing in nightclubs. And many of them died poor. And as this series, I think, has shined a note on, many of them died because of overdoses and whatnot, but not Clifford Brown. Not Clifford Brown. Benny Golson's jazz standard, I Remember Clifford, was composed in Clifford's honor. Duke Pearson's composition, Tribute to Brownie, was composed in his honor. Helen Merrill's recorded a tribute album in 1995 entitled Brownie, Homage to Clifford Brown. Of course, many of you guys would be familiar with Helen Merrill from the album that she did with Brown, which is awesome and a very, very high on my want list. Arturo Sandoval's second album, I Remember Clifford, obviously in tribute to Brownie. Clifford Brown Jazz Festival is an annual event in Wilmington, Delaware. 3 of his compositions, Sandu, Joy Spring, and Dahun, have become standards, and he was inducted into the Downbeat Jazz Hall of Fame in 1972. All of this from a man who died at the age of 25. Most jazz artists that died young died of overdoses, died of drug usage, lived very, very, very drug-addicted lives. Not Clifford. Clifford, by all accounts and by all of my reading and all of my research, was a great man that everybody loved, everybody adored. He did no wrong by anybody, and he stayed clean and set an example for aspiring jazz musicians. And he died at 25. And many people still believe he's the greatest trumpeter of all time. So, my opinion on that. Clifford Brown's my second favorite trumpeter of all time. He's my second favorite. But I won't argue with anybody who says he's the greatest. I won't. I won't argue with you. At all. Because my ears don't lie to me, and Clifford Brown was a damn genius. My favorite trumpeter of all time is Lee Morgan, as you guys have probably heard me discuss before on previous videos. So, one of my 2 greatest finds ever from a record store, Clifford Brown Memorial Album. Original mono press. Get a look at those Lexington Avenue labels. Beautiful piece. The wax is near mint. The sleeve is a very, very high VG+. And it was listed in my favorite record store for 300 bones. I did not pay 300 bones for it. I brought $240 worth of trades and paid $60 out of pocket for it. But I had to have it. And there was no other way for me to raise $300 cash at the time. I just didn't have it. But I wanted to take this video to do one on a clean living jazz artist that still had the misfortune, despite his clean living and despite his good intentions, of dying young. Rock and roll's got the reputation, well known, the 27 Club, Kurt Cobain, yada, Brian Jones, Jimi Hendrix, yeah. I'm not downplaying any of them. All of these guys are, some of my many heroes. But everybody knows these stories. Not very many people know these stories of these jazz artists who busted their asses, who worked endlessly at their craft, at mastering their craft, who played nightclubs, who would play a nightclub and then drive in the snow to another gig the next night, who basically lived out of nightclubs. And many of them still died high, drunk, or poor, or all of the above. And my admiration, not just for jazz music, but for the people that made it, is through this roof. And jazz fans like myself, and in my opinion, music fans in general, owe so much to the hard work and phenomenal musicianship of these wonderfully talented individuals. So, to Clifford Brown, cheers and rest in peace. I hope you have an endless supply of trumpets in heaven, my friend. And on that note, until next time, until next video, keep dropping that needle. And if you have a Clifford Brown record, drop a needle on it tonight. Because that's what I'm about to do.